Hello there, my name's Scott. Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Wizard's Apprentice, which I received from www.markbugs.com. Before I start, I must point out I did receive it free of charge for the purpose of conducting a review. My opinion of the product remains true, honest, and accurate as always. Okay, let's go straight ahead and show you in a bit more detail. Okay, so it comes in a nice little presentation tin, and when you lift off the lid, inside you're going to be presented with a rather nice looking Wizard's Apprentice. Okay, so the Wizard's Apprentice, it really is a very nice little device made out of stainless steel, and the actual build quality, really is a top notch. The only thing I will say though is that the threads are quite fine, so you will need to be a little bit mindful when screwing them together, just in case you accidentally cross thread them. But they do screw together, very smoothly, so if you feel any sort of resistance whatsoever, then obviously just stop straight away and start again. On the base of the Wizard's Apprentice, you're going to find two large ventilation slots. So if you was very unfortunate and happened to put a dodgy battery into it, which was leaking gases, then obviously the gases have got somewhere to escape from. In the centre, you're going to find what I believe is laser engraving stating Made in Romania. And just below that, you're also going to find a serial number. On top, you're going to find a 510 atomizer connection. So that means you can use any atomizer or cartomizer that also has a 510 connection. And just going around the outside there, you've got a nice little drip well. And then on the side of the Wizard's Apprentice, you're going to find some more laser engraving where it says Wizard's Apprentice by Mark Bugs. And it also uses a touch sensor for the switch. So every time you want to activate your atomizer or cartomizer, all you've got to do is just put your finger over the touch sensor and then it will fire it up. And the touch sensor also has a nice little sort of sliding lock, so if you are going to carry it around in your pocket, obviously it's going to prevent it from accidentally activating. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a quick size comparison against a regular sort of double AA battery, just to show you how small the Wizard's Apprentice actually is. Now this is the 18500 version, and as you can see it's still pretty tiny, but there is also a even smaller version which uses an 18350 battery, or if you prefer the bigger batteries, you can also get a slightly larger version which uses an 18650 battery. Okay, so the Wizard's Apprentice is basically just made up of two parts. You have the main body, and then you have the top cap which has the 510 atomizer connection and the touch sensor switch. Now I do want to point out that this is the new updated version of the touch sensor switch. With the original one, you used to have to put the battery in with the positive going towards the base there. Whereas on the new version, the positive goes towards the switch. So for example, if you're going to get one of these via the classifieds, you've seen a second-hand one for sale, do check with the seller as to what version of the switch it is, because if you put the battery in the incorrect way, you could actually damage the touch sensor. So as this is the new version of the switch, I'm going to put the negative end in towards the base, goes in there, and then just take the top cap and that just screws into place. Okay, so what I'm going to do now then is attach my Bliss Genesis atomizer to the Wizard, and this is pretty much the only thing I've used on it ever since I got it, because for me this is a really nice setup, and it's probably not going to appeal to everybody, but for me the actual look of this, it really does float my boat. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Okay, so that is the Wizard's Apprentice. Let's go ahead and see what it vapes like. Okay, so that is the Wizard's Apprentice, and what I'll do now is go ahead and show you in action. So I'm going to be using it with a Bliss atomizer, which is a Genesis repairable atomizer. Not too sure what the resistance of the coil is, but it's probably around 1.3, 1.4 ohms. And I've got the tank filled up with some 18 milligram strength tobacco flavoured e-liquid, and it's just a PG based e-liquid. As you can see, like vapor wise, you're getting plenty of vapor out of it, but you have to bear in mind that the amount of vapor you're going to get will be very dependent on your own sort of personal setup with regards to what sort of atomizer or cartomizer you're actually using on it. But no, with the setup I've got here, getting plenty of vapor. And the same thing applies to a throat hit as well. It's going to be quite dependent on what sort of atomizer or cartomizer you're using. And also to a certain extent the actual strength of the e-liquid. Me personally, I find that the higher the nicotine content of the e-liquid, or the stronger or the harsher the throat hit. And I'm using 18 milligram strength here, which isn't particularly high or particularly low, right there in the middle, but I'm still getting a really nice solid thump in the back of my throat. The battery life on it, now I'm using the 18500 version, and you can also get it in an 18350 version, which is obviously slightly smaller, uses smaller batteries, or the larger 18650 version, which obviously uses large batteries. Now obviously the different battery sizes are going to give you sort of different run times as well. And with the 18500 version, I'm probably getting around sort of 3/4 of a day's worth of sort of good quality vaping out of it. But I do want to point out though that the batteries I'm using, I got those when I originally purchased my first ever Pro Vari, so it's probably around 18 months, 2 years ago, whenever that first come out. So those batteries are, sort of quite old now. They've been sort of, charged and recharged, or uncharged, discharged, that's the word, many times now. So they're probably not quite working to their full capacity. And I'm pretty certain if I had like a brand new version, I'd probably should just go and buy some actually, rather than being a tight ass. But if I had some of those brand new batteries, I'm pretty confident I'll probably get a full day's worth of use out of it. But nevertheless, so even with my old knackered batteries, I'm still getting around sort of 3/4 of a day. So it's pretty good. When it comes to the touch sensor switch, now I did actually originally purchase the Wizard's Apprentice quite some time ago now, which obviously came with the original touch sensor switch. But after around sort of after around sort of 24 hours worth of use, I started getting lots and lots of misfires. And unfortunately, after 48 hours worth of use, it just sort of completely died on me. So I had to sort of send it back to Romania to get it repaired, wait a while, get it sent back to me. And when it got sent back to me, I still couldn't get it to work, unfortunately. So I ended up sort of sending it back again and then just getting a refund. And I was really gutted because, I really did like the Wizard's Apprentice. So I was quite pleased when they wrote back to me a little later stage and said, well, we've got a new version of the Switch now, we'd like to send you one out for a review. Because like I said, I really did enjoy using the Wizard's Apprentice, even though I really only sort of used it for about sort of 24 hours. Now I'm pleased to say that the new Switch, is, compared to the old one anyway, is working pretty much perfectly. What I have noticed though is that with a brand new sort of fully charged battery now, you don't get any sort of misfires whatsoever. Every time you touch that sensor, it fires up every single time. But as the battery starts to deplete, when it gets around sort of probably about 3/4 of the way through the battery, then you do start getting the occasional misfire. And as the battery sort of reaches the end of its cycle, then the misfires become more frequent. So it's still not 100% perfect. It doesn't stay, it won't sort of fire up every single time throughout the whole cycle of the charge. But once it gets to around sort of 3/4 of the battery life, works perfectly, but the rest of it, you start getting the occasional misfires. And I've just sort of started using that as my indication that I need to sort of change the battery really. So not 100% perfect, but compared to the original touch sensor switch, a hell of a lot better. Not a great deal else I can really sort of tell you. For me personally, I really do like it. I was really gutted when my original one sort of basically just sort of died. I mean, I had to get a refund because I really wanted it to work really badly because I really was enjoying using it. I just think it looks the absolute nuts as well. And so I was really pleased when they have seemed to have sorted the switch out. Okay, so get on to the scores then. For the looks, well, it's a foregone conclusion. For me, this is a 10 out of 10, and if I could give it more, I would do, but 10 out of 10 is a very accurate score for the looks. For the vapour production and throw hit, I'm going to give those my average scores of 8 out of 10 each because it will be very dependent on what you actually use with it. Battery life, now if I was going to base it on my knackered batteries, it would be like a 7 out of 10, getting 3/4 of the day's worth of use out of it. But I'm pretty confident with brand new batteries, I'll easily get, well, I wouldn't say easy, but I'd imagine I would get a full day's worth of use out of it. So I'm going to still give it the 8 out of 10. The
The switch is obviously a massive improvement on the original one where it works as starters, which is always a good sign. But you are still getting the occasional misfires once the battery gets to around 3/4, and then those misfires do start increasing as the battery starts to deplete. So you have still got battery life in there, but it's still not firing up 100% all the time. I have got that nice little sort of sliding lock on there, so you haven't got to worry about sort of accidental misfires or accidental activation, so to say, if you're going to carry it around in your pocket. But I'm going to give the switch an 8 out of 10. Okay, now if you do fancy trying one of these out for yourself, go along to www.markbugs.com. Thank you very much for watching, and also come along and visit my website at www.e-cig-reviews.com. That's e-cig-reviews.com. Cheers guys, happy vaping, see you later.